The best sport in the world is back, but it hasn't been the greatest start to the season for quite a few teams. But don't worry, if your team just went 0-2 in their first two games of the year, there was still a chance. Let's take a look at which team has the best chance to make the postseason despite their 0-2 start, and which ones are too far gone. Now let's divide the 0-2 teams into tiers and rank them based on their odds, starting with the teams that aren't looking too good and probably won't make the playoffs this season. Because let's be honest, if only 14 teams are going to make the postseason, someone must bite the dust. The first tier is the better luck next time tier, and the first team in that tier is the Carolina Panthers, a team that has started very poorly. They lost both of their opening games against the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Chargers, respectively, by very wide margins, and it doesn't look like things are going to get easier anytime soon in Carolina. To make matters worse, they just announced this week that they're benching Bryce Young, who was their starting quarterback, for former Cincinnati Bengal Andy Dalton. Why? Well, the coach feels that the players feel their seasons are already over after two games. It's not a good sign if you were hoping to see them bounce back after the disappointing start. It's not just the mentality either. They're struggling both offensively and defensively, and Bryce Young has been very shaky throughout the first two games of the season. The offensive line has been abysmal, with a lack of pass blocking and no run game to support their defense, which has also been pretty abysmal throughout the early part of the year. Now, don't get me wrong. It would be awesome if the Carolina Panthers could make the postseason in a very competitive NFC South division, but their chances are looking very slim. However, they are not alone in this tier, as they are joined by the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos have not been as disastrous as the Panthers because they didn't lose by as wide of margins in their opening two games, but a loss is a loss in the National Football League, and the fact remains that the defense has struggled to keep their opponents out of the end zone. They have given up 26 points and 13 points to the Steelers and Seahawks, respectively, for an average around 20 points per game throughout the first two games of the season. These are two games they could have easily won against teams that have struggled throughout the early part of the year themselves, but Denver still finds themselves winless coming into week 3 of the NFL season. And to take things to bad from worse, they are in a division which houses the undefeated and reigning Super Bowl champions, the 2-0 Kansas City Chiefs. And the final team in this tier will have the New York Giants. Their problems are more of the same. Daniel Jones has been very inconsistent at the quarterback position, and it looks like the New York Giants are going to have many other options throughout this season, and they will have to potentially look in the draft for their next quarterback. They were demolished by the Minnesota Vikings. They had a few positives in their follow-up game in Week 2, as they failed to get past Washington at 21-18, in a game they could have easily won, but almost wins don't count in the National Football League because on the board they are 0-2 and yet to record their first victory in this season. Of course, every team in this video is 0-2, so that's not really saying much, but the New York Giants don't look like they're going to get out of this pit they find themselves in at the moment. And that's because their schedule looks like a nightmare this season, with 2 games against the Cowboys, 2 games against the Eagles, and a tough out-of-division schedule as well. Moving on to a little bit better tier, those are the teams that stand a little bit of a chance to make the postseason, but they will need plenty of parity to go their way this year. Now, the Indianapolis Colts are one of those teams, and they are led by second-year quarterback Anthony Richardson, and with them being so young, it is very unpredictable, but that's why they are in the second tier, because they still have plenty of time to find their identity and style of play, and it's just a matter of time before that happens, because they arguably play in the worst division in football, the AFC South. The only problem is they do have one competitive team in the AFC South, and that is the Houston Texans, who they have already lost a game to this season, and division losses are very hard to bounce back from. Consistency has been an issue, and defensive concerns only make them worse. The ace up their sleeve, however, is their second-year quarterback, Anthony Richardson, who has shown flashes of brilliance, and he's only going to get better throughout the year. He has the potential to be a very dynamic playmaker, but he'll need to improve his accuracy and decision-making if Indianapolis wants to be successful this season, and the offensive line will need to be able to protect him if they want to continue to win games and find their way out of this 0-2 hole. Second team in this tier is the Los Angeles Rams. The 2022 Super Bowl champions are currently 0-2. Quite surprising considering they've been very competitive in their first 2 games of the season, but that loss to the Arizona Cardinals is going to be very difficult to bounce back. Now, playing in the NFC West, not easy. Not in a division with San Francisco or a Arizona team that seems to be on the rise and a decent Seattle team. The retirement of Aaron Donald obviously hurt this team coming into the year, but the Rams still have a massive hill to climb if they want to be successful in 2024. But this is a team that is built with talent, and if anyone can bounce back from 0-2 and make the playoffs, it is the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the next team is the Tennessee Titans because despite their 0-2 start, playing in the AFC South is going to help them. And if the Titans can improve the areas that they need to improve, they should have no problem bouncing back and making the playoffs, which puts them in a much better spot with the Rams than the Rams because of the divisions they play in, with 2 other teams in their division 0-2 at the moment. If they can find some consistency and avoid major injuries, they can make a late season push for a playoff spot. Their offense, especially quarterback Will Levis, has been a little bit inconsistent throughout the first 2 games of the season, and they will need to find a way to generate more explosive plays on both sides of the football. More importantly, they need to depend on their defense and their running game to get things going, and if they can do that, they will be much more successful the rest of the season. Now, moving to our next tier, this sets us up nicely for the how are they even 0-2 tier, and the first team in that list is the Jacksonville Jaguars, the reigning AFC South champions, led by Trevor Lawrence. While they've had a slow start, the division is relatively weak, as we've said already, giving them a great chance to turn things around. Lawrence has shown flashes of brilliance and has the potential to be a top-tier quarterback, and that is a very big deal because outside of arguably Los Angeles, none of the teams on this list have a top-tier quarterback who can get the job done. They have a variety of weapons on both sides of the football, and they came oh so close to not being on this list after a Hail Mary fell short against the Cleveland Browns last weekend. Speaking of a talented football team that you're surprised is 0-2, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals next. Cincinnati Bengals had the Kansas City Chiefs beat, and they were not able to secure the victory. Now, with Joe Burrow under center, he is one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, and he gives Cincinnati plenty of hope that they will be able to turn around from this 0-2 start. They have plenty of talented wide receivers for him to throw the football to, but they will need to remain healthy, and that is an issue that has plagued Cincinnati throughout the last couple seasons. Now, staying in the AFC North Division with the team that nobody understands how they're 0-2 is the Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh-led Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore has played 2 incredible games, losing to Kansas City and Las Vegas, and arguably this is a team that could easily be 2-0, and they have the best chance to turn things around after their 3-point loss to Las Vegas last weekend, and their loss by an inch to Kansas City in the opening game of the season. This is a team that will certainly make the postseason if they can get things going in the right direction from here on out. And with week 3 here, it'll be exciting to watch which of these teams can grab their first victory of the season. Until then, make sure you watch the next video as we head into week 3, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as well.